Hello everyone and welcome to week 4. It's the first time this season where we've got some teams on bye week, so you may need to make some changes to your roster. I'll talk about 3 guys you might want to add to help you get through some of these bye weeks. We'll also talk about some of the injuries last week. There weren't a whole lot of significant ones, but there are a few that have some fantasy impact. And lastly, we'll talk about the Bucs. Boy, was that an ugly game Thursday night. Not a whole lot to talk about there, but we'll see what they're going to do going forward. Now let's start with the injuries. There weren't a whole lot of significant injuries last week, but there are a few that will have some fantasy impact. The first one is the Carolina Panthers running backs. They lost Mike Tolbert and Jonathan Stewart last week, and DeAngelo Williams didn't play due to injury. Now Williams is supposed to be back for week 4, but I'm not really crazy about him. He's only had 8 touchdowns in his last 32 games, and the Panthers brought up a rookie from their practice squad. His name is Darren Reeves. Now, Reeves hasn't played yet in the NFL, but sometimes all it takes is an opportunity. So let's keep an eye on DeAngelo Williams and Reeves and see who becomes more productive here in week 4. The next player I want to talk about isn't necessarily a player, but a unit. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They had 3 key injuries on Sunday night, and any team, no matter how good the defense, has a hard time dealing with that many injuries that quick. Luckily for the Steelers, they've got the Bucs coming in next week, so we'll see if that really impacts them from a fantasy football perspective. But if you do have the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, you want to keep an eye on the replacements for those injured players. And the last injury I want to talk about is with the Bucs, Josh McCown. Now, he hurt his hand last week, and a lot of the fans got what they wanted. Mike Glennon came into the game, and he looked pretty good for a little bit. Now, granted, it was against the Falcons' second-string defense because the game was so far out of question, but we'll see how Mike Glennon does with a full week of practice under his belt as a starting quarterback. And we'll also look at Vincent Jackson with the Bucs. Now, they're downplaying this injury, saying the cracked wrist isn't that big of a deal. They're going to put a brace on it. I don't know how effective that's going to be. He pushes off a lot on the line of scrimmage to get out into his routes, and that's going to cause some pain in that wrist. And when we talk about a wide receiver trying to catch the ball, obviously they rely heavily on their hands. So I'm staying away from Vincent Jackson this week. In fact, I'm pretty much staying away from everyone on the entire Bucs offense. Doug Martin's back, but we'll see how he does behind this offensive line. Maybe the only guy to take a look at is Mike Evans. The rookie's really starting to show some promise, and if Glennon can get the ball to him, he can start to put up some big numbers. Now let's talk about 3 players you might want to add to your team. The first one is Allen Robinson. He's a rookie wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I know a few weeks ago I said stay away from Jacksonville, but they made a change at quarterback. They brought in their rookie Blake Bortles, and what I like about that is we all know Jacksonville's offensive line is pretty much still a block of Swiss cheese with wearing a football helmet. But Bortles has the ability to move around in the pocket and a strong enough arm to still get the ball downfield to some wide receivers. In the past, the Jacksonville quarterbacks have pretty much had to just throw the ball out of bounds or dump it off to a running back or tight end once they got some pressure. Bortles isn't like that. I look for him to continue to build on his relationship with Robinson and put up some big numbers. When Bortles came into the game last week, Robinson had 6 catches for 73 yards. I think that will continue as the two get more time playing together. The next player you want to add is Marvin Jones. He's a wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals are on bye this week, so he won't help you in week 4, but in week 5, he's supposed to make his season debut. He got hurt in the preseason, but he had a big year last year in limited time. He had over 50 catches and 700 yards with 10 touchdowns. The Bengals are playing great football right now, and the addition of Marvin Jones will only add to that. And the last guy to talk about is Niles. He's a tight end for the Washington Redskins. This season, it seems like pass-catching tight ends are growing on trees in the NFL. And unfortunately for a guy like me who drafted Jimmy Graham 10th overall in his league, there's a lot of depth at tight end. Niles is just another tight end that you can look to add to your fantasy team. He's got 18 catches for 253 yards and a touchdown so far this season. Look for those numbers to continue to go up as he gets more and more playing time. That's all I've got this week. I'm Matt McGuire. Thanks for watching, and remember, #ThePlank on Twitter if you have any questions.